as promised, at the start of July, Sharoy and I are back with special guests. And as you can see, who picked up the clue? I did a live stream that no one watches, but I did one. And I gave a clue. And the only thing I could think of was just to do this. And there was one comment. Someone went, hey, the different knock.
Nice.
There were a few other slightly random guesses. And then I couldn't think of a clue for Jess, but also I ran out of time and I panicked. But let's introduce her first because we all know her and she knows her Arsenal. Did you see what I did there? Anyway, welcome, Jess. From She Knows Arsenal. How are you, Jess?
I'm good. I can't complain. It's summertime and there's football on 24/7. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and to chit chat a little bit. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Me too. And I'll chuck in Wimbledon and I'll chuck in F1, Silverstone, and I'll chuck in Love Island. And I think Castle Moore's just started. So
House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon. You're into House of the Dragon?
And House of the Dragon?
Yes.
Yes.
We all watch it.
Yeah.
I'm only one episode in. I'm treating myself to celebrate the start of this podcast properly. I'm treating myself to the next two. So episodes 2 and 3 after this.
Oh, you're going to love it.
Nice. You're going to love it. Episode 2 is so good, man. It's so good.
Okay, well, let's make this a quick 10-minute pod then. And from the different knock, of course, it is Mr. Alex. How are you, my friend?
Hi, James. I quite like that I've been to your house now and I know exactly where you're recording from. I know what you've done with the table. I know you showed me the whole setup. So this is quite nice. So you need to come to my house because I'm in my room. So you need to know where I am. It feels wrong me knowing where you are.
No, that's fair enough. So Alex was round for the Germany game, and then he went, "Is that what you film?"
Yeah.
Sharoy, my amazing co-host, you got a lot of love in the last podcast, the first podcast, the only podcast. And
that wasn't just me. That was a wee thing, man. That was a wee thing. I'm not going to take up too much time with this. Sainsbury's rice slip. Black SUV pulls up to me out of nowhere, rolls down the window. I think Sopranos. This is the end. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. Someone shouts out, "Sharoy!" I'm like, yeah. Still waiting for it to be the end. And he goes, "Man, I love you and James. You are my favorite combination." So there is a market for it, but he didn't know about this pod. So I navigated him towards your channel. I remember his name, Mustafa. If you did subscribe, I want to see you in the comments today, my man.
Hey, that's genius, man. Thank you. And thanks, guys, for being our first guests. I was I was desperate to get you guys on. But anyway, I've done all the nice welcoming stuff. Not every week the podcast will be like this, by the way, to all listeners. Just 10 minutes of Wimbledon's great and who's watching Game of Thrones. But we have Arsenal to talk. Or do we have much Arsenal to talk? I mean, this is the one problem, right? I probably picked the one time where there's very little to talk about because Arsenal need to just get on with his barbecuing.
Hey, we confirmed David Raya today. So, that is a signing. It is.
Incredible.
Technically.
Yeah. And we got linked to a Spanish goalkeeper and we still have Ramsdale. So, I mean, Arteta can't go a summer without bringing in one goalkeeper at least. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Look, I actually do have a main topic, which is Declan Rice. And the reason I wanted to talk about him is because I think we all enjoy the analytical side of the game. I think we're all really curious about the midfielder we need. And I think seeing him at Arsenal and him doing all the different positions, all the different jobs Arteta needed him to do, people have just been happy to get on with it. Great, he's been brilliant. In England, because England haven't been very good, and I think I know the man to blame, but let's not go into that. A lot of his deficiencies, of which there are very few, people are kind of using more against him now. And I think it's shaping the way people are talking about Declan Rice and his future at Arsenal. Jess, we weren't on your channel and we spoke in length. Then we listed all the 8s we missed out on just last summer. Where are you with Rice and his future and his position and actually the supposed deficiencies he has?
I mean, I think I tweeted it after yesterday's game and I was like, I just cannot believe that. I guess I can believe it, but England fans only focus on what Declan is not and not what he is. And what he is fantastic. But he needs a certain type of player, I think, around him to complete the midfield. I think it's a very similar situation at Arsenal that it is with England. Although I do think England has those players, but I'm not quite sure Arsenal has that particular player. But in terms of what is his best position, I still feel very similarly that I did last season. I still think he's more of a DM. than an 8 in my mind. I think we disagreed on that. I think you thought he was better in the 8. I think he's
changed
better.
my mind. I changed.
Yeah, it's a weird one because it's like, I don't think we need to be so fussed about the actual position, but more about like what would complement him the best. And I think like with Jorginho and Partey, we see what kind of player is good next to him, a passer. Like, it's just that simple. Like, I don't think it's that difficult. Whether that player is more advanced or kind of like does those passes from deep, I think, it could go either way. But yeah, I think Declan is a fantastic player and I think he has so much to give. It's just a shame that, I feel like some people just don't enjoy the player that he is because they're so focused on what he's not. And so hopefully Arsenal get it right in midfield and are able to partner him with somebody that could help unlock him and Odegaard, because I think it's important. But from an England perspective, like, it's just Manu, it was fine. Like, it works,
Yeah. I want to sort of from the off just say with this podcast, guys, jump in whenever you want. Don't worry about me coming in.
So I was thinking about the thing.
Oh, right. No, go for it, please.
No, that was a joke.
No, I know. But I okay. Your thoughts.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I think what Jess said is bang on in terms of you've got to partner it properly. I think, James, you made a video recently, and I think it was really good. We discussed that also on WhatsApp about the sort of is it a concern that, for example, during Timber we signed him, there were some reports came out that we saw him at left back and decided that was the play, or is it a concern with Havertz that we signed him, appeared to be starting the midfield and he ended up at centre forward? And I think it's a really interesting conversation. I think this is the way coaches think now. I from everything not that I know, but from everything that we know, every time we see them speak, whatever. I remember there was an interview with Arteta probably March time. I can't remember where it was. Did we play Brentford in March? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, he was doing a post match and he was talking about Kai Havertz and they were praising him because he's having a brilliant time. And he said, yeah, when we signed him, we thought he could play 3 positions and we just signed him and thought, okay, well, let's see. And he was so relaxed. Now we could go down the route of Mikel lies. It would just be such a weird lie. I don't know why he'd tell you that if that was a lie. It's a very weird lie.
He does, though.
Yeah, he does lie. Let's be clear. But it feels like a very specific and weird lie. Yeah, so I do believe, basically, what Jess is saying, and that it depends on the partner, it depends on the game, it depends on the structure. And sometimes that's a cop-out answer, but let's get specific. Okay, if, I don't know, we've got... the Chelsea mid-block, remember at Stamford Bridge, where we had that sort of, just because I've watched it recently, I'm not this much of a nerd. They basically set up with like a Gallagher and Palmer up top, Sterling, I think it was Mudryk, and then I can't remember who the 2 pivot players was, probably Enzo and Caicedo. Yeah, they properly stepped onto us. In that game, I probably don't want Rice deep. I probably don't, because he's getting really, really stepped onto. I don't think he's the most press-resistant player in the world. But if you can create some space for him, can he carry through that midfield is a question. Is he the player you want to be firing the ball through to? Is he sort of the best with his back to play, sort of holding the ball up in the pocket? Probably not. But again, in combination with someone else in there, with a Jorginho, I think he could get us through there. It just depends on the solutions and it depends on what they're doing. I think what we have, similarly with Kai Havertz and similarly with Jurrien Timber, is an incredibly versatile player who unfortunately we can speak generally about this player or that player or that, but we're facing specific games every time, and we're facing incredibly well set up teams, incredibly, Anthony Iraola is the Bournemouth manager. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the level we're facing, right? So they're going to have different solutions for us. They're going to know, right, when Rice steps into the pocket there, that's their trigger for Martinelli to do that or whatever it might be. So I think what we need to get used to is going, let's see what the solutions can be. Let's see. In this game, Rice stepped back and, for example, the England game the other day, he stepped into the back and allowed Saka to sort of did the Xhaka thing where he steps in at sort of left centre back or whatever. Yeah, it's boring because it's not like an answer and everyone wants he's a 6 answer, but I just don't think that's the way it is.
See, I think he's a 6. I know this. I know this is exactly the opposite of what you're saying, but for me, he is a 6. I'm sort of looking at. The minute I think of him winning the ball back in crucial areas of the pitch, right? And I completely understand that given that we press high, a huge part of that is actually you also want your 8 to be winning the ball back quite high up the pitch, because then you're in the final third and you can score, and that's massive. But I just think that some of the defensive attributes that he has in front of our box are absolute game changers, man. And when I'm comparing him to 8s, look, do I think Declan Rice's shooting ability is up there with some of the best from outside of the box? Not really. Not really. I mean, he had the attempt yesterday when he hit the post, but I don't think his finishing is of the caliber that I'd want in an 8. I look at the last 8 that we had, who was a mainstay in that position, Granit Xhaka. That man had a left foot. You know, he could score from distance. I just can't necessarily see him doing that, man. But gosh, I think the reason this debate has come up, and it kind of goes back to what you said at the top, Jess. It's not just a Declan Rice thing with England fans sort of seeing what a player isn't. That's England fans. That's just England fans with the entire team, right? I mean, I'm now seeing compilations on Twitter saying that we only scored because Phil Foden came off the pitch. I mean, absolute gas. You know, people are now cussing the player of the year, saying that he's the main hindrance in the team. Harry Kane is now apparently one of the most defunct strikers in the world. You know, it's bizarre, some of the narrative. I agree they haven't been good enough, but the level of hyperbole with these players is insane, right? So it's not something that's bespoke to Declan Rice. And the partner thing, look, I understand that he had Jorginho for the majority of the season, but he did have Jorginho for a while. He did have Partey for a while. I think he may have had Vieira for one game. I think he may have had Trossard for a couple of games. I think he may have had Smith Rowe for a game. So his partners did sort of fluctuate during the Arsenal season as well, to an extent. But he was one of our players of the season. He was up for man of the match for, I'd say, like 75 to 80% of the games that we played. Everyone was saying that we stole him from West Ham. We didn't pay enough. So, I mean, look, so for me, a lot of the narrative around Rice and all these other England players, sadly, is just the reality of international football in this country. But the main reason I think, going back to your point, Alex, the reason I think he's a 6 is because when I compare him to the other 6s in the world, I don't see as much of a golfing class as when I compare him to what I think a proper 8 is. And that for me is the leveler. And that's why I've always felt, I mean, I can't remember what game it was. James, well, you 100% remember this. Do you remember there was a game towards the back end of last season where Odegaard picks up the ball on the left-hand side, sort of in the 8 position, and he blitzes a ball from the left-hand side straight to Havertz that I think, honestly, only Odegaard and our team could have picked out.
Was it the Chelsea goal?
Maybe. But I saw that and I thought, well, that's what an 8 should do. Yeah. That's what I associate with an 8, right? And that is something that I don't think Declan Rice has in his locker. And even as a 6, as I say, look, I mean, Rodri plays as a DM, but the shot that Rice took yesterday that hit the post, Rodri scores that 2 hours later for his country. And Rodri's done that how many times at the edge of the box? Rodri puts those away, right? So I do think even as a 6, there's an element to which Declan Rice can level up. But that was a long way of me saying I think he's a much better 6 than he is an 8. But I completely understand the fluidity argument too. And in a squad, you know, sometimes needs must.
I think you make good points. So when you say Rice is a 6, in the sense that you see, what do you see as his absolute like top draw qualities? Is it the protection in front of the back four? Is that what you see? Well, where do you see as like Rice's? That's for me. The sort of the tackling technique is certainly up there. Is that one of the main reasons you keep him as a 6?
Yeah, and I also think that's one of the main reasons why we got the Golden Glove. I don't think it was because of David Raya. I think it was because the centre-backs were imperious, but also when you have a proper defensive midfielder in front of your back 4 or your back 3 or your back 5, whatever it is, it does make their job slightly easier because he is sniffing out danger before it even develops. It is definitely, I mean, the way that he wins the ball back, how many times have we seen it, right, where he sticks a leg out like literally like an ostrich, or he just grabs it like that, right? And you're thinking, how has he done that without pulling a hammy or without committing a foul? It's insane. And like again, look, I get that is something that you need to do in their third too, winning the ball back high. But I just think the amount of goals and the amount of attempts on our goal that we avert because of his ability in front of our back 4, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah, I think that's where I am. Like, you know, when people talk about Trent and his ability to pass a ball, like whether it be hit the channels or it be go long, whether it, you know, crossing, it's a talent that is like, for me, a level above basically anyone else in that position. And so you find a way to get that in the team. And that's how I feel about Rice's ability to win the ball back.
It's a gift. It's a natural gift.
Is, you're right, we high press. So you think look at the Community Shield game in particular, where Rice did step onto Rodri, and he kind of didn't really shut him out the game, but at least he made his game awkward and difficult. That's a matchup I like, and maybe for the one game against City, like, I hear it. But I think in games where you're going to have a lot of possession, I'm thinking about keeping teams pinned in, or even when actually maybe you're on the back foot at Anfield like we were then around. I think it was Boxing Day we played them. No, it wasn't. It was just before Christmas. Like Saliba, Gabriel, Rice, I just think that's so special, and I just wouldn't want to pull that apart. And I think if we're talking about a lack of progression, because I agree with you, if we're being high pressed and suffocated, Alex, like Rice is the player to get us out of that. Yeah, he can, but he's not the best at it. But that's when you get another progressor next to him, you invert the fullback, or you do go with him and Partey or something. But then I sometimes wonder, well, if we're going to get him and Partey together in the team, or the new six, whoever it's going to be, then I'd rather that gives a license to Ødegaard to float more in the 10, or the left winger to come inside and pick up that other pocket, maybe an overlapping fullback, not necessarily it be answered by, we've got another six, therefore Rice has to step forward. Like, that's kind of, either way, I want Rice nearer that back four, because his ability to just shut, basically, if you want to score, it's get it past our goalkeeper, but then it's actually, before that, can you get it past Saliba and Gabriel? And before that, it's can you get past our midfield and our structure? And I just think that is ultimately going to be core to any success we have. Go on, Jess.
Yeah, I just think like almost like the desperation for people to want Declan Rice to play in the 8 is more like because of a lack of having that player. Because like genuinely, we don't have an 8, like an out and out 8, like somebody that's just like a center midfielder. Boom, that's it. That's done. Like, we don't have to talk about it anymore. Not a 10, not like Fabio Vieira or Emil. Ødegaard has been kind of shifted into or made into somewhat of like a more well-rounded midfielder, but like genuinely he is like more of a creative player. But I think Declan Rice being our best number 8 is more of like a consequence of not having an 8. So if we had one, I don't think there'd be as much of a desperation to put him there. And I also think he needs a solidified position, to be honest. Like, I think we need to know what position he's going to play. The bouncing in between, I don't think is the best for his development, but that's just me.
Can I jump in on that, Jess? No, it's not just you. I did a video on this. It's the one you were referring to, Alex. And the comments were very mixed. Some people said, basically the premise of the video was, he'd said in a press conference for England, he went, yeah, when Arteta signed me, we've been talking about being a 6, but as the season progressed, he liked me more in the 8. And I was pairing up everything with Timber, everything with Havertz, the change of positions. I mean, I think you can even put in wanting Vlahovic, okay, reportedly, but move on. We signed Jesus, but now we want another 9 2 years on. We signed Ramsdale 2 years on, we get another goalkeeper who's more like, these are quite big investments that 2 years on aren't really what Arteta necessarily wants. Now, Arteta and Edu have been brilliant. I don't want anyone to take this as a criticism. It's more an observation that I wonder if it may become a criticism one day. With Rice, I just think Rodri is a 6. He does step forward. He does do 8 things, but I know where he's going to start. Haaland, I know where he's going to start, and I knew what he was brought in to do. Now, I think flexibility and versatility is a massive strength of what we do. Huge strength, from the formations, systems, build up to personnel, everything. However, do you need a couple players outside the centre backs? But do you need a couple like staples? Like, this is what they do, and they know week in, week out what their job is. And I think Declan Rice is the one player in our squad that I think needs that more than anyone. But I don't know why I think that. Is more of a gut feeling. I know, Alex, you were sort of saying when we spoke about WhatsApp, like, it's as much a strength though.
You guys mentioned the City game earlier, and that's an example of Rice playing in the 8 because Partey was the 6 that day, and that was a day where he stopped Rodri turn. Like those qualities, Troy, you mentioned earlier, that's why we wanted them on the pitch that day. But then on other days, when you say you're playing against a West Ham with Kudus on the transition or something, and you want that stopped, that's when I'd have him deeper. I just personally, like, I know I'm on the side of, I think it makes us feel more secure as fans to know he's got a position. But I can't see Mikel doing that unless it benefits every single game state. I think like Rice's best qualities for me are the way he tackles oppositions, his stamina, his understanding and following a game plan. I mean, obviously his availability and all sorts of things, but also because it's towards the end of the season, he was sort of playing at points almost in a 2 with Havertz. There's times where he was like arriving in the box. I think he's got a lot of potential in that sort of on that underlap, arriving in the box. And the question is basically, when do you want that? Where do you want that? And the problem is when you say that, it sounds like you're sort of not really giving an answer. But I'm giving the specifics. Man City was the day where I said let's put him forward, and on a West Ham day, I'm sitting him back. It just depends on that. I think at some point, to come to your point, Jess, I think at some point he probably will settle into a certain position.
Yeah,
but maybe not under this manager.
There's only one Man City. There's only one Man City, though, right? We're looking at the City game as to the game where he really sort of shines in that role with.
Well, there's less of those games than there is like most games. I think he's better sitting in the 6 because like we're dominant in almost every single game, and I just wonder what we would look like if the midfield. No shade to Havertz, but I'm just gonna be so real right now. I don't want to see him in midfield next season. Just saying it. Just putting it out there. I don't want to see it. And all the games, like if you took Havertz out and put an 8 in there, I just wonder what would the vibe be? You know, because that could be good. Because we have more of them games than we do the City games. We're dominant in so many games. I don't think we need Rice to just be in that 8. I just don't. I don't think
Jess, you're spot on. You know, when you said, so when I came on your channel and I said that Rice for me was an 8, like, it was because I meant, well, maybe I'm just trying to make myself look better now in hindsight.
Hold on, how long ago was this?
It's about 3 months ago, I think.
Yeah, not that long.
Months ago.
All right, okay.
But Jess, just delete that video from the channel if you don't mind. But
no, send me the link. I want to watch this.
Jess, he's an 8, just like with all the chest. But yeah, go ahead.
I always felt Ødegaard, Partey, Rice was just an undeniable combination. I was like, you have to. And then Partey denied us that all season. But that was the 3 I just felt with the players we had to go with. But going into this summer and trying to address whatever we need, I'm sorry, I dream of a world where Rice goes, you guys go play. I'm just gonna tidy up. You good, Willow? You good, Gabs? Yeah, we're good. And Ødegaard's going, I'm gonna create, but you're gonna create too. And they both look over to Frankie de Jong going, yeah, I'll create a little bit too. And I'm sat there just thinking, like, we're winning the quadruple. Like, I dream of that kind of midfielder. I dream of and he's different. Guimarães is different, but I dream of that, like, perfect, as Jess said, central midfielder. Tottenham seem to have 4 of them, and I'm not saying they've got the makeup of their midfield perfect, but they seem to, and a few other clubs have an 8, and I just feel like we haven't had an actual. Yeah, I'll attack a bit and I'll defend a bit. Old school football, you know. You go, I stay. We haven't had a midfielder capable of doing that. Okay, Rice, but signed to be that. I don't think we've had one since Granit Xhaka, and even Granit Xhaka for years was actually meant to be a 6 deep line playmaker, facilitative midfielder who grew into that more. I don't know.
Do you know what we need? We need Mikel Arteta. We need that proper all-round profile. That's what we need, ironically.
You are the player, Mikel. Buy it.
Do you know what? Yeah. You mentioned Bruno. We did some scouting for him on the Cannon podcast. Moving on. And he...
No, subscribe to the Cannon podcast, people. Subscribe.
He is what you're saying in terms of what you're saying in terms of the all-round profile. You look at his numbers, you look at his game. I have some concerns about him out of possession. He jumps out of his pocket way too easy. But for £50 million, you know, that's a fantastic profile. But I agree with you, James. Just to say, I think we are missing that real all-round profile. Question is, again, I come back to what I said to Jess. Are we going to get that under Mikel Arteta? Because I think he looks at specialist profiles a lot.
Do you think he looks at players more like... Do you think he wants players more than he wants positions filled?
100%. I genuinely think... he was Theo Walcott. Theo Walcott did a bit with Simon Jordan a couple of days ago, right? And he was talking about how under Wenger, Arteta delays training. Arsene Wenger is the manager. He delays training by half an hour, closes the door and just goes, listen, I'm not about this top 4 nonsense. You lot are all too quiet. You lot are all too nice. That's why we're not getting there. Yeah, this is now a safe space. If anyone has anything to say, I want you to speak up. And Theo said, that is when I knew that this guy was a manager and he was all about psychology. I genuinely think that there are players that, just in football terms, he could have signed and could have accommodated that position. But he's probably gone and had some sort of psychometric testing done on them. He's really, really gone into the depths of, do they fit into my dressing room? He looks at people. As fans, that's frustrating because we can identify targets that we think would benefit the team in terms of goals, assists, tackles, whatever. But he wants the perfect signing. Now, I know that doesn't necessarily align with some of the players that he's brought in. I'm not saying that all of his signings have been perfect. But going to your point, I genuinely think he looks at the man before he looks at the footballer, perhaps to his detriment. I don't know. But so far, the way in which the squad's improved and come on leaps and bounds, and the amount of leaders that we now have in this team, and the amount of people that were historically quiet but are now particularly vocal. I'm looking at someone like a Gabriel. You know, he works wonders with them as men too.
I'm okay with that. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, after years of having such bad personalities in the team, it's like, it makes total sense. I just wonder if, like, there's a good person out there in the planet, like, you know, playing, that's also like an 8, you know?
Well, that may not be Bruno. That may not be Bruno, because from what I've seen, you know, excuse my language, but that guy can be a bastard sometimes, right? So
it's not Bruno Guimaraes.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, but
that's why I found the Tony links so interesting for all those months.
Tony, that was
then,
so.
And then it eventually came out, oh, Mikel actually met him and doesn't like him. I was like,
but you could see that, can't you? He's showing Arteta like his him tattoo. Like, look, I got tattooed like him right here. Arteta's like, okay, check. Like, I went out. Like, no. That was.
By the way, didn't he show for England, Ivan Toney, what he would add? Like that hold-up play, I thought we could use that at the Etihad every now and again.
Don't do this to yourself. Don't do it.
No, you're right.
Tony didn't. I think there was like a stat that came out that he didn't score a single goal in like the last 1,000 minutes that he played for Brentford. Like
that sounds like our perfect profile. That sounds like every you know
Arsene Wenger.
You know when the stats come through. You know when a player's not scored for a while, and then suddenly just. You know, blah, blah, is the first striker to go 9 games without a goal for Arsenal since blah, blah, blah in 19. And you're like, oh my, what? I knew it was bad. We pull up a lot of those stats every now and again. All right, look, let's round off the Declan Rice stuff there. But just to sum up, we all think he's a 6. And if we had our dream signing, who passes all of Mikel's, 5-stage interview process, we would want it to be an 8. Is that what we're saying? We'd want a typical central midfielder to come in the summer.
Basically, Gundogan vibes.
I'm not on that, but I would want an 8. I would want an 8. What we would call an 8. I don't think this is the way Mikel thinks about players. I think what we're missing is an all-round profile. I agree with that. Or because if you think about it, really. If all of our players, I said this about our midfield, if all of our players are fit 25 on 5-year deals and fully functioning, we've got a really good set of profiles. We've got creators, we've got a metronome, we've got physicality, we've got final ball, we've got carries, we've got everything, literally everything. The problem is they're not. If my grandmother had wheels. So I think it kind of depends who leaves, but for example, if Jorginho left, I would be looking at adding a kind of metronomic type of profile or whatever. You know, it's that sort of thing. But I do think to supplement what we have, I think a kind of all-round 8 profile. If Bruno Guimaraes was available for £40 million, I'd do it. I'd do it tomorrow, but he's not. So if my grandmother.
Any other final thoughts, guys?
I was just about to launch into he was £40 million when he was leaving Lyon, but. We could be here for an hour then, so I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. Chucking kudos, chucking a few. Let's move on. It's something that Sharoy is actually touching on, and it's Bukayo Saka. So there's a few angles we could take on all this. I did the video that came out today, so yesterday. I basically was just talking about social media and the hole it's become for football conversation. I think social media platforms was a place that once actually really freshened up football discourse. You didn't have to just listen to the ex-pundit or the pundit and the ex-pro because they played the game. Actually now there's room for so much conversation from just fans who study the game a different way, who experience it in a different way, and have so much to add. And look, here we are doing this podcast. We've all benefited from this. But I just feel that social media conversation has gone off a cliff a little bit, to the point where merely suggesting that Bukayo Saka could play in a position he's once played before, and let me say, that is not my solution. He shouldn't be a left back. But the suggestion of it generates so much fear in some fans for what that will do for his reputation amongst other fans on social media, or at least that's the impression I got. And part of me goes, who cares? And part of me goes, no, but we should care, because social media can't pretend it doesn't exist. It does exist, and what people say does matter, and narratives matter. And I think his versatility, Bukayo, this is what I mean when I said you can go whatever angle you want with this conversation, but I think Bukayo's versatility is a real strength. I see it as, and Jonathan Liu did a really good piece I just read before recording this, actually, where he said, he's become Southgate's rock. I need you, and I need you to do this for me, and I know you'll do it. Now, I'm not Southgate's biggest fan, but I want Bukayo Saka's managers to view him in that way. And I think Mikel does too. I'd just love to know what you all make of just the conversation around Saka recently, from his performances to the versatility to all that. I'll come to you first, Shahrul. I'm really interested. We spoke about Saka in detail, actually, on the first podcast. What do you make of all this conversation and Ian Wright suggestions and all that?
I mean, firstly, that there were Arsenal fans I saw on Twitter that were willing to sort of decimate Ian Wright's stature as a legend because of this comment, right? So that goes to your point about social media being an absolute shithole. That's not just a football thing, that's a societal thing, but I'm not going to get into that right now. The notion that you are so good that you can play out of your best position and still arguably be better than a fullback or a specialist fullback at international level, for me, is nothing other than a compliment. And how often will a player get sent off in a match? So a very good player has to get subbed off sometimes. How often will a player get sent off and sometimes someone has to accommodate a position that they wouldn't otherwise occupy? Why? Because the team success is more important than individual success and comfortability in a position. And that, for me, is the be-all and end-all of it. There aren't many left-backs in the England setup, even when they're all fit. Those that are fit and have been taken aren't cutting it. The left side is suffering. There is a wealth of talent on the right-hand side when compared to the left-back position, and Bukayo Saka can be good enough to fill that position if you do want to conduct the balancing act. That, for me, I heard that. I was watching that live, and I just thought, okay, maybe. And I thought nothing of it. And then I went and made lemon and ginger tea and sat down, being the old man that I am, and I opened up X, formerly known as Twitter, and I just looked at it and went, what the fuck has just happened here? I was baffed. Absolutely baffed. You genuinely would have thought Ian Wright said something about Saka's mum. It was the maddest thing I've ever seen. But that goes straight to the heart of your social media point. And you know, my blood pressure's rising now, so I'm going to hand it over.
Let's move on let's get Jess's thoughts. I think I know your thoughts on this, Alex. I want to hear it all. But Jess, where were you on it? I didn't really see you tweet about it much. Maybe I just missed it. What did you think?
I just couldn't. I couldn't, because it's just the whole Saka left back thing is I remember when Saka first broke through in the England side, and on socials it was very much this is his position, this is as far as he's going to go in the England setup, and he did really well. And once he started playing right wing for Arsenal, it was very clear that that's a very good position for him as well. I think a lot of rivals just kind of were, just because he's doing good at your mid-table team doesn't mean he can ever. And then fast forward 2 years and he's one of England's best players at right wing. And so I think there's obviously an undercurrent of rivals online wanting him to be shifted back to left back so they could be right. But when you take them out of the equation, I'd much prefer Saka to still be on the pitch and be an important part of the team, regardless of what position he's playing. Because if I'm watching England, I want to see Saka on the pitch. And so seeing Southgate shift him over to left back was kind of oof, I know how this is going to go down online, but Saka's their best option at left back if nobody else can play there. So it's I do wonder if that would have happened if Ian had never said anything, because it was just very weird how it all kind of
I was agree with that.
I was thinking myself,
I
do agree with that. I do think Gareth somewhere going.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so he really is out here like looking at what people are saying online, and like that another reason why he should be gone like yesterday, because like who's doing that? But genuinely, like Saka is always going to do what's best for the team. If you're the type of manager that only doesn't focus so much on like just like individuals and stuff, but you're like, okay, I want to do what's best for my team. Saka's always going to be a big part of that because he's so versatile, but he's also willing to do whatever it takes. And so, yeah, it didn't bother me as much as other people. I think some of the things that people were saying about Ian Wright was crap. He's a pundit and he has takes just like everybody else. Like, his job is not to just push the Arsenal narrative all the time. Like, he needs to say how he feels.
It's to sell training merch. That's his job.
and do that for sure. But I just feel like we're really insecure about Saka. And like, if we truly believe that he's the player that he is, we don't always need to be like so about it. We all knew Cole Palmer was going to go out there and shit the bed. We all knew that. I knew that. I was like, oh, he's going to go out there and play that, and Saka's going to keep his position. He's the number 7. He has 7 on his back, guys. He's not going anywhere. Like, but Arsenal, I think Arsenal fans do need to kind of ask themselves why they're so insecure about Saka. Is it because do you believe what you're saying or not? Because it shouldn't matter what rivals think. We know what Saka's about, you know? Like, that's how I feel.
He does get attacked a lot, though. He does get attacked.
He does.
Remember what you were saying. You're a left back. You're always going to be a left back. That's probably your ceiling. Then goes to right wing and he's incredible. What does the debate then become? Now, you're not quite world class. Haven't done it in the Champions League. Gets a couple of goals in the Champions League. A few weeks later, Foden scores a hat-trick. Saka doesn't. You're not better than Foden. There's always going to be some other nonsense metric to try and belittle our players. But I agree. I don't bite on social media because you're short, mate. But there are a lot of people that do.
Yeah. I mean, just even sidebar, like Saliba, they're genuinely having conversations online about Saliba.
Mad.
We all watched the performance. There is no conversation about Saliba, you know, but there's no matter what, if it's an Arsenal player, there's always going to be something. So I just kind of am like, whatever about it. But, you know, as long as Saka's good, I'm kind of good. And I feel like he is. He knows what it's all about. He has to do what's best for the team. So I don't know. How do you guys feel? I mean, I'm not an England fan, so I'm kind of like, whatever anyway.
I think that's also where I am a little bit because I mean, I've just always been Arsenal and then like Italy and England. so maybe because I wasn't as I don't know. I was watching the England-Slovakia game very relaxed, like you know, and bless Em was next to me getting like really like worked up about it, and I was like, England will score. I didn't really believe that. I just thought Southgate's not getting sacked tonight. He's just not. I don't feel it. So yeah, Bellingham scored. What a goal. And yeah, I think you make a great point about the narrative online and some of the conversation. What really annoys me about it, and I will say this for people who do kind of care a lot about all that, is I want to just say it's on my phone. It doesn't matter. It's not real. Like it's X could be deleted tomorrow, and none of it would exist. But then I'm like, but it does exist. It is real. Like the players see it. It is opinion that is passed, and that's just the vehicle through which it's passed. And I do sometimes think, is it one of the reasons why some of our players are underappreciated a little bit? Like, would Havertz get the appreciation as a 9 if he'd always played as a 9 or was signed as a 9? Do you know what I mean? There's always a sense of, well, he's just doing a job there. I don't know how to explain it. I think with Saka, there's that, well, he ended up on the right, but actually, if we need him there, we'll use him there. But I'm with Shara, I've just always seen it as a strength that England had various situations yesterday. Drawing the game, he started. Needing a goal, he was kept on for most of the game in that position. Getting the goal, he has actually shifted because there was an injury. And then needing to hold on to the lead, he then went to right wing back with their left wing back to see out the game. Foden hooked when they needed a goal. Bellingham and Kane hooked when they needed to hold on. Like, for me, that is such a compliment to our guy. And I think he's happier having seen out the game and put in a gritty, hard-fought win for England where they were terrible but found a way. And he played a part wherever he was needed, as opposed to getting hooked because it didn't happen for him on the right, so we're just going to take you off and get another right winger. Where are you with all this, Alex?
Largely with you guys. I think just quickly on the Saka left back thing. Look, we're trying to fix something that's already broken. Yep. So I think there's people going, it's so disrespectful. I told James this. Someone commented on a video where I said it's not what I would do, but I don't hate it as an idea. that it was disrespectful and embarrassing. Touch grass, bro. Touch grass, please. Get off the internet. Like I promise you, there's people out there. Like, you just please get off the internet. It's like, guys, come on. We're in a situation where someone has played there before. Kieran Trippier's not offering enough natural width. Phil Foden's constantly collapsing inside. It's like a fine idea. Would I do it? Probably not. But like, I don't care enough.
I'd have taken another left back.
I'd have taken another left back. But we're not. But if my grandmother, do you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, whatever. I think the carry on about that was really bizarre. And it is, yeah. On the social media thing, I think there's like, and do you know what it is? It is people like Bavs. Like, I tell him all the time, stop doing it. Like, baiting Chelsea accounts. I'm like, just grow up. Like, come on, mate. But it's stuff like that. And the problem is, it's ultimately we think we're bigger than we are on there. They're algorithm built platforms to show us ads. So they're obviously going to push to you the most salacious takes ever. So basically, going on social media feels like everyone's going. When they're not, it's like two people, and then you see it over and over again, and everyone reacting to one person saying something. So sure, you said earlier, like, I just was like, oh yeah, it's fine. That's 99% of people probably take on Saka. It's like, it's probably not what I would do, or maybe it is what I do. Doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go out, enjoy my lemon and ginger tea. But social media, because it wants to keep, the algorithm is trained to keep us on there, makes you presume that everyone is constantly out to get each other and after each other's accounts, and oh, this person said this and this, or that person's beefing that. It's just, but the shame of that, I think, is kind of to your point, James, that it does bleed over into like that you could take the perspective of it's just all silly and it's a game. But then we see stuff like, I can't remember who it was, but is it ESPN like made a joke about like Saka limping? Like, it does bleed into like actual mainstream content.
Exactly.
So I don't quite know how you.
That's where I sympathise for those who don't want certain narratives pushed on social media. And I think, let's stop overreacting. This is a club legend and you're all killing him online for it. That is, though, where I think, okay, but go on.
On an individual level, if you care what Carefree Lewis G says about your club, go outside. On a like a bigger level, yes, social media is a problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is. It's a concern because because of the way the platforms work, they supercharge conversations that don't need to be that. That conversation, the Saka left back
abuse. It normalizes
100%
abuse, right? And that's where, James, where you said it's not real, it's just an app. Sadly, you see that much of it, and it is real. But I'm not Bukayo Saka, but if I am Bukayo Saka, I'm thinking, right, regardless of what happens, I'm getting an England cap, which a lot of people don't get, regardless of what position I'm in. I know where the manager wants to play me. I'm now like the face of New Balance on an advert. I've got my own sauce at Nando's. I'm on 6 figures a week, and my girl's in the crowd wearing my merch, cheering me on. Life's nice, man. Life's nice.
Yeah. And just one thing I want to say on Saka as well, and this is just away from the social media stuff, but on his performances in general. I don't know how you guys feel about how he's looked compared to how Palmer's done when he's come on or whatever. But I don't know, maybe if I'm seeing this through my Arsenal tinted glasses, but I see a player in Bukayo Saka who is exhausting fullbacks, for 60 minutes of the game, either before he's moved to a different position or before Palmer comes on or they do something different. Just because you're not always burning the fullback doesn't mean you're not working hard. That guy is strong, he's fast, he's intelligent, and he's very clever with his use of the ball. He knows when to pick a pass, he knows when to take you on, whatever. Sometimes he tries things that don't come off. Sometimes he doesn't have the better of his fullback, but he's working them hard. And a little part of me, I don't want to see this because social media. If Palmer started the game and then Saka came on for the last 30, I'd love to see how that would be. I mean, I think
that's what makes me bitter, though. Saka comes on and most of the time he plays with the most imbalanced version of what England is going to be for the day because Southgate is just doing whatever. Mm-hmm. And so he has to play with Kyle Walker when I think we all know that him and Trent work together like peanut butter and jelly. That combination is so good, but he doesn't get to play with that. Earlier on in the competition, who he had to his left was not a true midfielder. It was something weird was going on. That impacts him. Harry Kane is dropping really deep, so it's who are they even trying to hit? And when he plays for Arsenal, he's constantly isolated because the whole game plan is to get Saka into good positions, either 1v1 with the fullback or with people around him so that they can create those little triangles. He doesn't get that. And so from my perspective, what annoys me is like, get Palm on, get Gordon on, get Trent on. It's like, why not get Trent on for Saka? Like, it's like, just get Saka off. I'm like, Saka's still your best right winger. I'd be like, I don't hear enough people saying get the right people around Saka. It's get Saka off. I find that to be really strange. But I agree with what you're saying. It's like Saka does all this hard work. Of course, like when you come in last 30 minutes and Saka's already done a lot of the work, it's going to look a little bit easier for Cole Palmer. But I even think Cole Palmer struggled in that game because nothing works for England. I can go on and on.
Yeah.
And Palmer's brilliant, may I say.
If we're stepping into the Southgate dumpster fire, like I don't think he's basically what I think Jess is alluding to here. Southgate hasn't chosen anyone to platform. He's just picked the 11 best players from England and gone, go. And he's allowed Phil Foden to collapse inside and shrink the spaces that Kane and Bellingham can work in. On the right-hand side, he's not platforming. He's not helping Saka. And, if you watch him for Arsenal, where's he best? With a midfielder in the pocket and an overlap. And he often has neither. Like, he's not chosen anyone to... Like, I genuinely don't mind. Send Saka home. I don't care. I want him to have a summer off. I don't care. But if you're going to have Saka and you're going to put him on the pitch, then platform him properly. Or go... Do you know what? My main guy's Kane, and I'm going to have two outlets in behind, and that's how we're going to play. But what he's done is he's just done nothing, and he's just put the best 11 players and gone, yeah, work it out, and it doesn't work. Kieran Trippier pretending he doesn't have a left foot. We can see it, mate.
It's true. Everyone, we are 45 minutes in. We've tackled 2 topics. So I'm going to bring these final 2 topics into the last 15 together. Before we do, I just want to say, everyone, go and subscribe to She Knows Arsenal, Jess's fantastic channel. Go subscribe to the Different Knock Live, and the Canon podcast, all hosted by.
I think I've got a personal YouTube account as well, so you can.
Adventures with Alex.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And of course, Sharoy's voice as well, everyone. We hope you're all enjoying this. It will be coming weekly. And of course, we'll be inviting Alex and Jess back because they're brilliant. As you can see, I've barely had to talk, which is fantastic. Or I've talked too much. Hit the like button if I have. Everyone, final topics, of course, transfers. Woo! Because the only reason you guys will watch this video, maybe I'll just slap the title, Transfers Unveiled. Just that can be the title.
Do you want us to do a few of the? We can do a few thumbnails.
Yeah.
Sorted.
Everyone just point at something, and I'll just get Calafiori on the thumbnail. And we can really drive the traffic. But yeah, let's go into it. Actually, something came through from Fabrizio Romano, which was interesting. Now, I like Fabrizio. I get what he's doing. It's cool. He tweets a lot of. I knew this already. However.
That was such a middle-aged man comment. I like him. I see what he's doing.
I see what he's doing. I get it. This is I actually think this is an interesting update, right? Bologna I've fumbled it already. Bologna expect Premier League clubs to bid for Calafiori, as he revealed. The director said, I think he will not end up joining Juventus. Probably he can go abroad in case we decide to sell him. We'd like to keep Calafiori, so let's see what happens. Now could be negotiation technique. Let's get extra money out of Juventus. But my word, was he good? Was he good at the Euros? The most happiness I've had from the Euros is watching him play, especially for Italy. He was unbelievable. Italy always churn out these defenders. He can play on the ball. Under Thiago Motta at Bologna, he played in a system that was incredibly fluid, incredibly, your ability on the ball, you had to redepend on that. And that's me citing other people's work, by the way. I didn't watch a minute of Bologna last year. And I think he's we need a centre-back / left-back hybrid who's actually quite tall and loves defending. He feels like Mikel's built in a lab centre-back. I want to come straight back to you, Alex, because I'm sure there'll be are you going to do a breakdown on the canon on Calafiori thing?
Maybe.
I'd like to see that.
What
are your thoughts, man?
I was also just about to say, finding out that your surname isn't like Buenaventura or something, it was one of the worst moments of my life. I really
James
ruined it.
Is that for,
I thought it was going to be some mad Italian name. Fuming. I won't repeat it. Keep your anonymity.
Bob.
James Bob, that's his name. Look, Aura. I think, to be honest, I'll need to watch more of the player to like really comment on it particularly. Obviously, he looked good, smooth on the ball. It's everything you expect from a current centre-back, right? It's, it's nice over the shoulder, all the normal hit points of the sort of the centre-backs you want. But I don't know. I think for us, it's similar to be honest, this conversation feels like the one we're having about a lot of talents, where we're going, Nico Williams, lovely talent. Rafael Leao, lovely talent. Whoever, name your favourite, insert. These are all the things you can put in the title, James.
Mohamed Kudus.
Kudus, lovely talent. Is that right for Arsenal? Is always the question. And I just look at Saliba's versatility at sort of left centre-back. I look at Tomiyasu on the left-hand side. I look at, we've still got Zinchenko. I look at Kivior. Got Timber as well. I just can't see us making a signing on that left-hand side of the defence. I think what happens is we all fall in love with a player. This happened with João Neves. Remember those 5 days when everyone wanted João Neves and now no one's talking about him?
Apparently he was going to Man United. Nailed in.
Yeah, that's happening, yes. Yeah, I just think these types of players who, especially when they're easy on the eye, which Calafiori really is in many ways, by the way. I fancy him. No, but he's got the aura, hasn't he? He's got the headband. Yeah. It's great. Like when the player's easy on the eye, it becomes a kind of we've got to get him at Arsenal. I just think when I'm thinking about the feasibility, when I'm looking at what we already have, good player, fine, but also in a year sample at where he is. So yeah, I don't know. I personally think it's a here today, gone tomorrow story.
We have Timber. I mean, if you're talking about that left side, someone who can occupy centre back, someone who's versatile, we've got him, man. And we're talking about the need for something up front. We're talking about, man, we've never really had a proper 8. I mean, there are areas that we need to plug well before we look at a play like that for me.
Yeah.
But didn't City have Ake have his best season ever for them, and they won the treble, and then they went, Gvardiol 85 million. Like,
I get it, but I just don't think they had the holes elsewhere on the pitch that we have.
Yeah,
that's all.
I mean, sorry. On the other side of the coin, just a little bit. I disagree. I think we need somebody on the left. Like, I really do. Like, just from the perspective of like, we don't really have like a Ben White on the left. And I know that it's like, well, what about Timber? But I just always felt like Timber was brought in for the right because he's right-footed, he's a right-sided center back, right back. So you have Ben White and Timber on that side. But on the left, we kind of have like this merry-go-round of like, kind of solves a problem, but doesn't really. Like, Tomiyasu would probably be our best option there, but he's kind of always injured. Zinchenko, we know what's up with him. Kivior is really a conversation. Like, I really just feel like, do we love Kivior? Do we not? Is he good? Is he not? Like, is he what we need? Is he not? Because obviously he played well in that period where we were playing out of our minds. But Arteta only really played him when he had no one else. And then the minute somebody else was able to walk on one leg, he took him straight out of the team. And so I just wonder, like, is he really challenging Gabriel? Is he really good enough for that left back position? I know, Alex, you've spoken about, does he have enough personality on the ball? Is he somebody that's doing enough when he gets into those positions? So we have options, but I feel like in a lot of positions we have options, but are they any of them like good options that we really feel like we can count on? I think left back is an opportunity to move somebody on, if not more than one person, and bring in somebody that we really can rely upon. I'd like to see a left-sided center back, left back come in.
Do you think that won't be Jurriën Timber?
Not for left-sided center back, no.
Left back. Shield, he started him there, didn't he? And he was imperious, and then he comes off 10, he comes on, and I think Cole Palmer scores from that flank for City.
I think Timber solves a problem there in terms of like somebody that can play there. But I just also think about somebody like Ben that plays basically strapped all the time, always has something that he needs to probably be resting, but we can't do that. You definitely can't do that if you have Timber on the left, so from my perspective, it's just like, because I always viewed Timber playing on the right, and I think he played on the left because we didn't really have another option. It'd be nice to get some, like a Ben White for the other side. I
don't disagree with that, any of that, in all honesty, in terms of the fact that in an ideal world, I would have someone who's an absolute nailed-on worldie of a left back, and I think we could probably upgrade there. But I'm looking at the options that you list there. One, I think perhaps where we disagree is that I think Timber's perhaps a bit better on the left than you do, maybe. But I'm looking at the 9, for example, or a player down the middle. Absolutely no sort of disrespect intended to any of the options at 9, but there isn't a single one of those options that I'm comfortable going into next season with. And that's why that is an area where I think we really need to strengthen.
You're talking about priority.
And that's going to cost. And again, I don't really have an 8 that I think we can depend on either. And I think that's where we could get real elevation. So again, all I'm saying is, if I had a shopping list and I had to do it in order, there would be other areas that I would prioritize. And knowing how much they're going to cost and what it's going to take to bring those players in, I think we really need to shift players to be able to have a shot at getting the desirables as well, you know? But that's just me.
Yeah, no. And I agree with that too. Like, left back is not my main priority. Like, it wouldn't be top of the list. It's just an area of, like, to me, just a lot of options. But like, in reality, I don't think anybody, I'm gonna speak for myself. Every time I'm watching Tomiyasu, I'm like, is he really who we want there? Kivior, do we really trust him there? Like, you know, that's all I'm saying.
You know what Alex was saying about Rice and, you know, different game, different need sort of thing. I kind of feel that way about all 4 of the left back options. You know, well, we need to play through the lines, Zinchenko. Well, we need to be our absolute most resolute. Well, it's probably Tomiyasu from what we've seen. You know, you want the best of both. During Timber, and he'll probably be the starter. All 3 are injured. Kivior, like, you know, I feel like basically we're covered for whatever game we're going to play next season. I'm confident we have a squad option that answers that. But I don't know if I'm just some greedy Football Manager fan, and I might be. But a part of me is like, I want Timber and White battling out for right back next season, and if they're both firing, I want to be able to play the 3 p.m. kickoff against 17th place. With Gabriel and White centre-back and Saliba just taking this one off. Like, I want to get to that point. I want to get to a point where I think Arsenal is still, where the squad is, where Arteta is with this team, are still at a point where you better get that best 11 out every week. And was there a time, not for years with Arsenal, but I feel there's been a time with other title winners, whether it be Klopp with Wijnaldum, Fabinho, Henderson, Keita, Fabinho, Henderson, Lallana. Was Lallana still there? You get my point. There were basically like 5 midfielders for 3 positions, and they're in and out. City have been able to do that. And I want us to get to a point where we're going to the weekend, no matter how much I love Ben White, and my word, do I love him, but I'm thinking it could be Timber this week. And that's a great problem to throw at the opposition, which is why I would stomach. There might have to be a sale. Maybe Kivior, okay, we decided it isn't quite it, and you move on for 20 million. But if it's like Kivior out, Calafiori in, just to upgrade and be like, no, you are the specialist left back we need in that role, like, I'm up for that. I think the squad could benefit from that.
That's what I was thinking.
Sorry, go on, Jess.
I was just saying that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But I'm also very greedy and try to move things forward. And yeah, so that is me.
I always have 50 million to the budget on Football Manager, so
you cheat.
I know, I do.
You
sorry.
Cheat. Horrible.
Alex, go on.
Did anyone used to play Modern Warfare 2?
Nah.
Call of Duty?
Yeah, but like
old school. Like,
yeah,
when I'm talking back in the day. Yeah,
I want to know where you're going with this. Come on.
Yeah.
So
Same.
on there, you choose like the intervention, and people who know the sniper. And then you could choose, right, I'll choose the casing for it, and I'll choose like whether I'm having FMJ and all the attachments, or whether I'm having extra sort of stuff. And I see the Arsenal squad as the base of it, the intervention is like Rice, Saliba, Ødegaard, Saka, probably Raya now, maybe Gabriel's in there, sort of thing. Yeah. And then the rest of it is kind of attachments, depending on what you're doing. So to continue this horrendous analogy, if you're on, if you're doing like long distance shooting, you want a different scope. If you're doing short distance, if you're trying to no scope people, whatever, that sort of thing. So I think we're constantly having a conversation between structure and freedom and stability and surprise, and it's that constant. You know, in nature you have that, right? And I think the left back slot and the number 9 and the midfield or whatever, there might basically in one out of every position, maybe the defense, midfield and attack, there might be one place that's kind of always up for grabs. I think what we maybe, I'm not saying, and again, going back to the Rice thing earlier, I might be totally wrong, and it might be, he might be looking for a kind of more settled 11 next year. I don't know, but my sense is, given what we've had so far, given we've had how many windows we have so far, and we feel like we've got almost like 3 holes in our team. I think to some degree this might be planned, and I think just to kind of finish that part off, I think what we might be missing is skills more than players. And I think we're missing an overlap on the left. I think we're missing a central striker who
can put the ball in the back of the net.
Well, but even on the goals thing, I don't know whether we need more goals, because we scored our record amount of Premier League goals last year. I think it's a different way of scoring goals, more of a channel running 9. I'd say I think that is a priority, and then probably something in the midfield. But those are skills. How you achieve that, let's say the overlap on the left, could be from your midfielder, could be from your left back, could be even from your winger. I don't know. My point being more that we probably always want to sort of fill in the gaps. But are the gaps there on intentionally? And is it more about finding what sort of, just to finish the analogy, totally, what scopes we have left to unlock?
Yeah, I'll put that on socials. That would be good.
Please don't.
I hear you. Yeah, let's see with incomings. I'm very interested. I think July will pick up significantly. Based on nothing, I'm no ITK. But at Arsenal...
It's not what you tell me.
Well, guess what, Alex? My mum just said. No, you look at
your mum's Turkish. That's crazy.
Forget the Partey summer, because everything was delayed because of the season and the pandemic. In all 3 other summers, 7 of Arteta's 10, £25 million plus signings have come in before the end of July. I don't think that's a coincidence. He has wanted key players in to get some minutes in pre-season before they go out there, and I think that'll be the same for at least 2 players this summer. So let's see. We're going to round it off there. Just a super quick fire on 3 players that have been linked with moves away in the last couple of weeks. Nelson reportedly wants to leave. Eddie, £50 million price tag apparently, and Emil Smith-Rowe, again a report that he might be telling Arsenal he wants to go. I just want your 3 price tags, or no, better way to phrase it, the 3 minimum fees you take before you ultimately decide you'd keep them, starting with you, Alex.
Can we say from a Premier League club?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, because I think they're only linked with Premier League clubs, so I'll go with that.
Reece, 18 million. I'd be a bit annoyed, but as in the very, very lowest. I think we should be getting 2025. Yeah. Emil, 26.
No, higher. Come on.
26, 27. And Eddie,
yeah.
And Eddie, I'm going 300. 30 maybe for Eddie. I don't know with Eddie. I don't know. I'm going to say 30, but I'm not sure I would agree with myself there.
Fair enough. Jess, your 3 fees?
Reece, 15. Emil, 25. Eddie, 30. Get him out. Cut that out.
Get him out.
I'm probably going 20 for Reece. I'm probably going 30 for Eddie, and I'm actually valuing Smith-Rowe the highest because I think of the 3, he still has the highest ceiling for me. I don't know whether it's emotional attachment or something else, but I just can't forget that season where he scored so many crucial goals from the bench. And I just think the injuries have hindered him a bit, but if he can manage to stay fit, he's a massive asset. And he had England caps, and he's one of the reasons that Arteta still has a job, mate. So I'm probably going around 35 for Smith-Rowe. But all that to say, if cumulatively the 3 are going and we get 70, 75 for them, it's fantastic business. I'm just tired of getting fleeced in the transfer market, man. I just want value for our players, particularly Hale-end products, particularly those that have international caps. It's our time to make some money from selling players and reinvest it properly.
Totally agree. I want to thank guys. Honestly, thank you so much for joining. This is the first ever Goonerverse podcast in the format it's meant to exist in, which is actually 4 people just talking about all the topics from the week. Of course, when the season is running, there'll be games to talk about, and actually, as the summer runs on, there'll be pre-season matches. We'll get an idea for what Arteta's plans are, and then hopefully some players will be coming in to fix, the holes in the squad that we've been discussing. But Sharoy, big thank you. Go check out Sharoy's voice. All the links will be in the description below. Same for Shino's Arsenal and Jess. I've been there. It's great. Go check it out. I want to come on soon, Jess. It's been a little while. There you go. I invite
before the season starts for sure.
Of course. And the different knock, Alex. Thank you for joining me, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, round of applause for everyone. Woo! Go subscribe, everyone, to all these amazing channels, and thank you, and I look forward to having you all back soon in a bit. Really hope you've enjoyed another episode of the Goonerverse Podcast with Arsenal fans from around the Arsenal world giving their amazing thoughts. A big thanks to our guest today. If you do want to follow this podcast on the go, you can. It's available on podcast platforms as well. Join us next week where we'll get more Arsenal fans to talk all things Arsenal. A big thank you again.